Have you ever really asked yourself how far you'd go just to feel something again? Not excitement. Not a little thrill. I'm talking about that deep, aching need to feel alive. To feel seen. Desired. Wanted. Because I did. I didn't mean to. I didn't set out to ruin anything. But somewhere along the way, I started feeling like I was fading. Like I was just there. A background character in my own life. I'd look in the mirror and barely recognize the woman staring back. Tired eyes. Forced smiles. Going through the motions. Everyone thought I had it all together. But inside, I was completely hollow. And the worst part? No one noticed. Not my husband. Not my kids. Not even me. Until one day, I woke up and realized. I couldn't remember the last time I felt wanted. That kind of loneliness, it doesn't scream. It whispers. Quietly. Every single day. Until one day, you find yourself standing at the edge of a line you swore you'd never cross. And you take a step. I wanted to test my limits. And what happened after changed everything. I'm not here to defend myself. I'm not proud of what I did. But when you're drowning, even a mistake can feel like a lifeline. It started small. A compliment. A lingering look. A joke that wasn't really a joke. And before I knew it, I wasn't just thinking about it. I was planning it. I invited them in. All three of them. And the moment I did, I knew there was no turning back. But this isn't just a story about infidelity. It's about being invisible. About forgetting who you are until someone reminds you. So if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, untouched, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why I did what I did. Before I go any further, hit that subscribe button. If you want more true stories like this, real, raw, and complicated, you're in the right place. This is Shocking Infidelity Saga. And this story is only just beginning. I'm a woman in my late 30s. Early 40s, if I'm being honest. Not that anyone asks anymore. There was a time I was the center of someone's world. His world. Alex. My husband. We were so in love once. The kind of love that made everything glow. He used to look at me like I was magic. Like he couldn't believe I had chosen him. But that was years ago. Now, he barely looks at me at all. We've been married for almost 17 years. 17 long, predictable, quiet years. We built a life together. Bought a house in the suburbs. Had 2 kids. Raised them. Paid bills. Made small talk. We became practical. Our kids are teenagers now. One's glued to his gaming console, the other locked away in her room with headphones and mood swings. I walk past them every day, but I might as well be a ghost. Alex, he's a good man. He works hard. Pays the mortgage. Fixes things when they break. He's never hit me, never yelled. But love doesn't disappear with a slap. It disappears with silence. With distance. With absence. We share a bed, but it's just a bed now. A shared space where our backs face each other. He falls asleep with his phone in hand, the glow of some mindless video lighting up his face, while I lie there, wondering how I became invisible. Our home looks perfect from the outside. 2-story house, white fence, manicured lawn. But inside, it's cold, sterile, like a museum. Everything in its place. Except me. Most afternoons, I sit by the kitchen window, coffee gone cold in my hand, watching the neighborhood hum along. Birds chirp. Kids ride bikes. Sprinklers tick on and off in neat little rotations. And inside this spotless house, I feel empty. It was during one of those long, still afternoons that I realized I couldn't remember the last time someone really saw me. Not just looked at me. Saw me. And then came them. Alex's friends. Damien, Marcus, and Jonah. They'd come over on weekends for beers, game nights, football. The usual. I'd bring out chips, maybe order some takeout, then slip into the background like I always do. But over time, something shifted. Damien was the first to break the silence. He was flirtatious, in a playful, harmless way. Always smiling. Always quick with a joke. His compliments were subtle, never inappropriate, but they landed. That color looks good on you. You always know how to make this place feel homey. He looked me in the eye when he spoke. That alone was a shock. Then there was Marcus. He was charming in a quieter way. A little aloof. Like he was always somewhere else in his mind, but when he did engage, he made you feel like you were the only one in the room. He'd offer to help clean up after their little hangouts, stand close, maybe too close, while drying a plate or handing me a glass. Then Jonah. The quiet one. He didn't say much, but he watched. His eyes always followed me when I walked past. He never said anything flirty. He didn't have to. His silence spoke louder than their words. At first, I brushed it off. Told myself I was imagining it. That I was desperate for attention and reading too much into things. But the way Damien's hand brushed my lower back when he passed behind me, the way Marcus leaned in when I spoke, the way Jonah lingered just a second too long before looking away. It was real. And I started to change. I began paying more attention to how I dressed on weekends. A little lip gloss. Something fitted instead of baggy. I told myself it was just for me, but I knew it wasn't. I started timing when I walked through the living room. Started hovering just a bit longer when I brought snacks. I felt something I hadn't felt in years wanted. It terrified me. And it thrilled me. It didn't take much. Just a glance. A compliment. A bit of interest. But after so long of feeling nothing, even a drop felt like a flood. Alex never noticed. Or if he did, he didn't care enough to say anything. I think that hurt even more. I didn't ask for this. I didn't go looking for temptation. But when they started coming around more often, I didn't stop it either. And somewhere deep down, I didn't want to. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. It was a Saturday, just like all the others. The guys came over laughing, loud, carrying beer and stories. Same routine. Same couch. Same sports channel flickering on the screen. I remember I had on a simple summer dress. It wasn't anything special, really. Light blue. Soft fabric. Just enough of a scoop at the neckline to feel noticed without trying too hard. I wasn't aiming for anything. At least, that's what I told myself. I was carrying a tray of snacks when Damien looked up. His eyes did a quick scan, head to toe, and he smiled. Not the polite, casual kind. A slower smile. The kind that lingers. He tilted his head and said, "That dress suits you. Brings out your eyes." Just that. No smirk. No wink. Just words. Simple. Direct. But it hit me like a bolt. Not because of what he said. But because of how he said it. Like he saw me. Like I was more than Alex's wife who refilled drinks and disappeared into the background. And the ripple it sent through me? I wasn't ready for that. I laughed it off. Said thanks. Kept moving. But something shifted inside me. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way he looked at me. The way he made me feel. Like I still had something worth noticing. So, the next weekend, I wore something different. A little bolder. Off the shoulder top. Lip tint. Perfume I hadn't touched in months. I pretended it was for me. But it wasn't. It was for that moment. That feeling. And they noticed. Not just Damien. Marcus looked twice when I walked in. His gaze trailed a little longer. He smiled in that quiet, slow way of his. Jonah didn't say a word, but his eyes, they stayed locked on me more than usual. I lingered more. Laughed louder. Started sitting closer instead of retreating to the kitchen like I always did. And they leaned in, too. Small things. Comments. Little touches. Shared glances. We were all pretending it was nothing. But we knew. Then, one night it happened. We were a few drinks in. The air was warm, thick with summer. The lights were low. The house had that soft hum of music playing from the Bluetooth speaker, one of those old R&B playlists that makes everything feel softer, heavier. Someone, probably Marcus, suggested a game. Truth or dare. We laughed. I rolled my eyes, called it childish. But I didn't stop it. The first few rounds were harmless. Silly. Embarrassing confessions. Stupid dares. Then it came to Damien. He leaned back, looking right at me. "All right," he said. "Dare." Jonah smirked. "I dare you to ask her to sit on your lap." Silence. Then laughter. Nervous. Half mocking. But Damien didn't laugh. He looked at me, raised an eyebrow waiting. Everything slowed down. I felt my heart thudding in my chest. Loud. Heavy. I could have said no. I could have laughed it off. But I didn't. I walked over and sat down. Not for long. Just a few seconds. But long enough. Long enough to feel the shift in the room. Long enough to feel his hands gently steadying my waist. Long enough to feel 3 sets of eyes on me, not with judgment, but with something else. Something thick. Charged. I stood up after a moment, brushing it off. Joked about it. Poured another drink. Tried to pretend it was all still innocent. But it wasn't. Something cracked open that night. We all felt it. Later I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun above me, shadows dancing across the walls. Alex was asleep next to me, breathing soft and steady. I didn't sleep. Not because of what happened, but because of what I wanted to happen. After that night, something inside me started unraveling. Slowly, quietly, like a thread being tugged from the edge of a sweater. Barely noticeable at first, until one day you look down and realize the whole thing's come undone. I kept asking myself, am I really doing something wrong if nothing actually happened? I didn't kiss anyone. I didn't say anything explicit. It was just a dare. A stupid game. A few glances. But deep down I knew. Because my thoughts were no longer my own. And once your mind crosses a line, your body's just waiting to follow. I'd catch myself thinking about them during the day. Folding laundry, stirring a pot, standing in the shower, one of their faces would appear. Their voices. The way they looked at me. The way I felt in that moment on Damien's lap, like I wasn't just alive. I was wanted. And it felt good. Too good. But right behind that little flicker of pleasure came the guilt. I'd look over at Alex, sitting on the couch, completely absorbed in some work email or YouTube video, and I'd feel this wave of shame crash over me. And yet, he hadn't touched me in months. Not a kiss. Not a caress. Not even a passing touch on the small of my back. Just silence. Distance. Indifference. I tried. I really did. I wore that lingerie he used to like. I made his favorite dinner. I even climbed into bed one night and reached for him. He turned away. Said he was tired. Tired. I laid there, my hand still stretched out toward him in the dark, and something in me just snapped. Not in an angry way. Not even in a desperate way. It was quiet. Cold. Like finally accepting that a door had closed and no one even bothered to lock it. I was tired too. Tired of trying. Tired of being the good wife. Tired of being invisible. And those men? Damien, Marcus, Jonah. They saw me. Not just my body. My energy. My spirit. My presence. Damien made me feel playful. Flirty. Like I still had charm. Marcus made me feel interesting. He actually listened when I spoke. And Jonah. Jonah made me feel watched deeply. Not in a creepy way. In a way that said, I see you, even when you're trying not to be seen. Each of them awakened something different in me. Something I thought I'd lost. At night, my dreams turned into little movies. Some soft, some intense. Some just filled with conversation, laughing over wine, eyes locked in quiet understanding. Other nights, they were less innocent. Bodies close, whispers in the dark, a hand on my thigh, breath on my neck. I started looking forward to those weekends, not for the company, not even for the thrill, but for the possibility of being wanted, of being touched, of being chosen. And every time I caught my reflection in the mirror, dressed just a little nicer, walking with a little more sway, I knew what I was doing. I knew this wasn't just flirting anymore. I was emotionally cheating. I hadn't said the words out loud, but they lived in my chest. Tight. Heavy. Ticking like a clock waiting to go off. Some nights I sat alone in the kitchen, staring out the window, asking myself how I got here. I used to judge women who did things like this. Thought they were selfish. Weak. Careless. But now, I understood. It's not about recklessness. It's about starvation. When your soul goes hungry long enough, you stop being picky about where the nourishment comes from. That realization hit me harder than any slap ever could. I still hadn't crossed the final line, but I was circling it, over and over. Closer. Slower. With every visit. Every glance. Every thought. And I knew deep down. It was just a matter of time before thinking became doing. It was a Thursday night when Alex told me he'd be heading out of town. Work trip. 2 nights, maybe 3. He said it like it was nothing, standing in the hallway, suitcase already half-packed. I nodded, smiled, told him safe travels. He kissed my forehead, not my lips, and that was that. The moment the front door closed behind him, I stood there in the silence. No part of me felt sad. No part of me felt abandoned. I just felt free. That night, I lay awake, the glow of my phone lighting up the sheets beside me. I stared at the message box for a long time. Typed. Deleted. Typed again. You guys still up for drinks tonight? Alex said you could come by even if he's not here. I hit send. My heart thudded like I'd just confessed something. A minute later, Damien replied, "We're in." Just like that. No questions. No hesitation. Just in. And I knew what I was doing. No more pretending. I spent the day moving through the house with purpose. Vacuumed. Lit candles. Picked out a playlist, sultry jazz, a little soul, something slow. Set out glasses, chose a wine I'd been saving. Wore a black dress, off the shoulder, soft against my skin. I dabbed perfume behind my ears, something warm and sweet. When they arrived, the air changed. Damien came first. Always the loudest. A bottle in hand, wide grin on his face. Marcus came next, cool, smooth, gave me a little hug that lasted half a beat too long. Jonah came last. Quiet. Calm. His eyes found mine as he stepped through the door. He didn't say much, but his gaze said enough. We didn't sit around the TV like usual. I'd moved the furniture, made the living room feel more open. More inviting. They noticed. We laughed. We drank. The wine flowed a little too easily. The music played low and steady in the background. It didn't feel like a regular night. It felt intimate. The conversations dipped deeper than usual. Not just football or work drama, real things. Regrets. Childhood stories. Moments of vulnerability. And with each glass, the lines blurred. Damien brushed my hand when I passed him a drink. Just a light touch, but it lingered. Marcus followed me into the kitchen to help with dishes. He stood behind me, his chest almost against my back, hands brushing mine as he took a plate. He whispered something funny, something low, and I laughed, breathless. Jonah didn't move much. But his eyes? They didn't miss a thing. At one point, I bent to adjust the speaker volume, and when I looked up, he was watching me in the reflection of the glass. It sent a shiver up my spine. After a while, Damien suggested another round of truth or dare. Half joking, half serious. I said yes. The game started light again. But not innocent. Truths turned personal. Dares turned suggestive. The laughter was louder, but the silence in between was heavier. Marcus dared me to dance with Damien. A slow song had just come on, smoky old-school R&B. I stood, reached out my hand. Damien pulled me close. One hand on my waist. One holding mine. It was just a dance. That's what I told myself. But our bodies pressed together. Our breathing synced. My head rested lightly on his shoulder, and I could feel the beat of his heart. Somewhere in the middle of that song, he looked down at me. I looked up at him. And then it happened. A kiss. Soft. Barely there. A question, not an answer. We pulled away just as quick. Both of us pretending it didn't happen. But it did. And the room knew it. Nobody spoke. The bottle was nearly empty. I refilled glasses that didn't need refilling. My hands were shaking slightly, but I didn't ask them to leave. And they didn't offer. We sat there, the four of us, surrounded by flickering candles, music humming low, and something in the air so thick it felt like you could taste it. And in that stillness, I knew. Whatever came next, there was no going back. I wish I could say I remember every moment of what happened next. But the truth is, it didn't unfold like a scene in a movie. It was a blur. Not because I was drunk, but because the moment I let myself stop thinking, everything I'd been holding back, every stare, every longing breath, every silent scream for attention, just poured out of me. We were still in the living room. The candles were down to soft glows. Shadows stretched long across the walls. The music had shifted to something slower, almost hypnotic. I was standing near the record shelf, pretending to browse, when Damien came up behind me. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His hand brushed my back, bare skin, just under the edge of my dress. It wasn't accidental. I turned to face him. Our eyes met. There was no surprise in his expression. No hesitation. He leaned in, and this time, I didn't pull away. His lips found mine, gentle at first, almost unsure, then deeper, more certain. It was like being underwater. Everything went quiet, heavy. All I could feel was the heat between us. The way his hand slid up my arm. The way his breath caught when I touched his chest. When we finally parted, I expected guilt to come crashing down. But instead, there was silence. Thick. Loaded. Then Marcus spoke, from behind us. So, we're just pretending this isn't happening? I froze. Damien stepped back. I turned toward Marcus. His face wasn't angry. Not shocked either. It was curious. Like he'd been waiting to see what I'd do next. And what I did. I stepped toward him. I don't know what part of me took control in that moment. It wasn't the wife. It wasn't the mother. It wasn't the woman who'd spent years being good, being quiet, being proper. It was the part of me that had gone untouched, unseen, unloved. Marcus met me halfway. His hands were warm. His breath was shaky. When he kissed me, it wasn't like Damien's. It was different. Slower. He cradled my face, like he was afraid I might break. And maybe I was. I didn't even notice Jonah at first. Not until I turned, and he was there. Still. Watching. Our eyes locked. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But there was something in his eyes that stopped me in my tracks, something that said, I've seen all of this coming. And he stepped forward. I didn't pull away. I let all of it happen. All of them. And somehow it didn't feel chaotic, it felt like gravity. It felt like I'd been standing at the edge of something for so long, and I finally let go. And the fall wasn't scary. It was freeing. There were hands on my skin, lips brushing my neck, laughter, breath, movement. But what I remember most was the way I felt. Seen, desired, claimed. Not as someone's wife. Not as someone's mother. Just as me. It was like stepping into a dream. Or a storm I couldn't stop. Time blurred. The night slipped between my fingers like silk. Eventually, the candles melted to nothing. The music stopped. One by one, they left. No one said much. No awkward goodbyes. Just a quiet understanding. And then, I was alone. I walked into the kitchen. The room was still warm, hazy with the scent of wine and something deeper. I reached for a glass on the counter, and it slipped from my fingers. It cracked on the floor, didn't shatter, just split, a jagged line through the center. And I stared at it. That cracked glass felt like something symbolic, like a reflection of what I'd just done. Still standing, still whole, but broken in a way that couldn't be unseen. I didn't cry, didn't speak. I just stood there, barefoot, in the soft light of my own ruin. I didn't know it yet, But I had just broken something that would never heal the same again. The next morning was eerily quiet. No birds. No cars passing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the ache in my chest. I woke up alone. My bed was untouched, just the pillow I curled into after they left, damp with sweat and silence. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. Not from Damien. Not from Marcus. Not from Jonah. And that silence, it was deafening. For a second, I wondered if they regretted it. If they all had a group chat I wasn't part of, trying to decide how to pretend nothing happened. If they were ashamed. If I should be too. But mostly, I just felt hollow. The house was still. Still mine. Still lifeless. I cleaned everything up like it was a normal morning. Picked up the wine glasses. Blew out the candles. Wiped down the counter, carefully avoiding the cracked glass that I hadn't thrown away yet. I left it in the sink like a reminder. Or maybe a warning. Alex got home that evening. He walked in with his usual tired smile, suitcase in one hand, tie loosened. Kissed my cheek like always. Told me the trip went fine. Meetings, traffic, hotel food. The usual. And I just stood there. I looked at him, searching his face, trying to see if he knew. But there was nothing. Not a flicker. Everything was normal. Except me. I watched him move through the house, completely unaware that the floor beneath him had shifted. That the woman in front of him was no longer the same. That night, he sat on the couch with his laptop. I sat beside him, folding laundry, my fingers moving on autopilot. He didn't notice I hadn't spoken in over 20 minutes. He didn't notice the way I was watching him like a stranger. He didn't notice anything. But I noticed everything. The next weekend came too quickly. The guys came over like they always did. Beer in hand. Casual smiles. Small talk. I told myself I could handle it. That I could act normal. That we all could. But the moment I opened the door and saw Damien, something in my chest tightened. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He hugged me quickly, barely touching. Sat on the far end of the couch. Quiet. Fidgeting with his bottle. Marcus, on the other hand, seemed bold. Confident. He smiled at me like nothing had changed. Sat closer than he needed to. Whispered something about how great the place looked tonight, and gave me that look, like he still wanted more. Jonah was different. He didn't say much. But every time I moved around the room, I felt his eyes on me. Heavy. Quietly intense. Like he was carrying a truth we hadn't spoken yet. We didn't talk about that night. No one dared. But it was everywhere. In the way Damien barely touched his drink. In the way Marcus kept finding reasons to be near me. In the way Jonah's stare burned into my skin. We played cards. Watched a game. Laughed, though mine felt forced, hollow. Every moment was a performance, and I was center stage. I kept looking at Alex. Watching him laugh with his friends. Oblivious. And it tore at me. I felt judged. Not by them. By myself. But also, I felt powerful. For the first time in years, I had made a choice for me. A messy, reckless, selfish choice. But mine, and that terrified me. What scared me more, though, was the way none of them said a word. As if silence could erase what we all knew had happened. When they left, it was awkward. Tense. No one lingered. Damien didn't even say goodbye. Just waved over his shoulder and disappeared into the night. I stood at the door long after it closed. My hand on the frame. My breath shaky. My mind spinning. I told myself it was over. That the worst had passed. But deep down I knew. The real consequences hadn't even started yet. That came when Alex found out. The days that followed were heavy. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just heavy. The kind of weight you carry in your chest, like you're holding your breath all the time and can't quite exhale. I went through the motions. Made breakfast. Did laundry. Picked up groceries. Sat beside Alex at dinner while we talked about nothing. Bills. School schedules. Upcoming repairs. He smiled when I brought him coffee in the morning, kissed my forehead again, and I kept wondering if I told him, would he care? Would he raise his voice? Would he break something? Walk out? Cry? Or would he just nod slowly, rub his temple, and ask, why? I wasn't scared of the anger. I was scared of the silence. The same silence that had already been between us for years. I thought about telling him. Late at night, lying in bed with my back to his, I'd stare at the ceiling and whisper the words in my head. Rehearse them. Taste them. But they always stuck in my throat. Because what do you say? I let your friends touch me. I crossed every line because I felt empty and they made me feel alive. I didn't regret feeling again. That was the hard part. I hated how I got there. Hated the mess, the deception, the shame. But for once, I didn't feel invisible. And that was something I couldn't regret. A few nights later, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus. We should talk. Just 3 words. But they sat there, glowing on my screen like they were burning a hole through it. I stared at the message for a long time. Typing, deleting, typing again. And then I locked my phone and put it face down on the nightstand. I never replied. What could I say? What could we talk about? What's done is done. Damien never messaged. Never came around again. Not once. Alex asked if he was okay. Said he must be busy. Haven't heard from Dee in a while. He muttered one morning over eggs. I just shrugged. Said I didn't know. Jonah still showed up. Quiet as ever. Polite. Present. But he never looked at me the same way again. Not in that way. Sometimes I wondered if he hated me for what I allowed. Or if he hated himself for not stopping it. Or maybe he just accepted it for what it was. A moment. A mistake. A release. On the surface, our marriage survived. People saw us and saw fine. Neighbors waved. Friends commented on how solid we were. Alex and I still shared a bed. Still made plans. Still functioned. But every time I heard his laugh, I wondered, did I ruin something beautiful? Or did I just finally admit the truth? That maybe it wasn't beautiful anymore. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. Maybe I didn't break it. Maybe I just stopped pretending it wasn't broken. And that question lives with me now. Every single day. I know some of you will judge me. Some of you already have. And maybe you're right. Maybe I deserve that. But some of you, you'll understand. Because you've been there. Or you're there right now, sitting across from someone who hasn't looked at you in months, wondering how you became so easy to ignore. And I don't have all the answers. I'm still trying to figure out which side of me I listened to more, the one who needed more, or the one who gave too much. I don't regret the feeling. I regret the silence that led me there. I regret how easy it was to slip into something I used to swear I never would. But I don't regret feeling alive. I needed that. And if you've ever crossed a line just to feel again, even if it was just in your head, just for a second, I want to hear your story. I want to know I'm not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Say what you've never said out loud. I'll be reading. Quietly. Just like I used to sit watching. Waiting. Hoping someone might finally see me. Because here's what I've learned. Loneliness is dangerous. Not because of what it makes you do, but because of how quietly it convinces you that your needs don't matter. That your heart isn't worth the noise. That your body is just there for function, not feeling. That your voice should stay silent because no one is listening anyway. And by the time you realize you've faded, it's already too late. You've already reached for something. Someone. And once you taste that feeling again, that heat, that hunger, that humanity, you can't unfeel it. So, if you found this story intense, shocking, or even a little too familiar, hit that like button. Subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga for more real stories that live in the gray areas of love, betrayal, and everything in between. Because this life isn't black and white. And sometimes, the messiest stories are the ones that tell the truth the loudest.